Hi guys, and welcome to a classic film review of Alien from 1979, starring Sigourney Weaver, Ian Holm, Yaphet Koto, Veronica Cartwright, among others, and directed by Ridley Scott. This is no less than one of the most influential American movies of all time. The chilling tale of a mining ship sent to investigate a distress call, who then stumble upon some alien eggs and end up bringing a lethal alien creature back onto their own ship. A perfect killing machine that puts the entire crew in grave danger. Now, this film's notable for birthing one of cinema's most successful franchises, including arguably the greatest sequel of all time, and confirmed Sigourney Weaver as a true megastar, and Ridley Scott as one of cinema's most technically brilliant and visually inventive directors. Let's take a look. So, watching Alien after all these years, and this is 45 years after its initial release, and with those 4.5 decades saturated in imitation and seeing its influence on everything from movies, TV, video games, comic book, art, etc., etc. Of course, what was once termed as just a haunted house movie in space is itself influenced by decades of haunted house and monster movies. The Fear of the Unknown. Essentially, it's a sci-fi update of Agatha Christie's 1939 novel, 10 Little Indians. Now, what strikes me rewatching it, maybe for about the 50th time, is how simple it is. Simple, but at the same time, when the mechanics of the plot kick in and some of its twists are revealed, it hints at something much bigger and more terrifying. And that's something that, in my opinion, even Ridley Scott couldn't capitalise on with his well-meaning but ultimately too messy follow-ups in Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Here, the bigger picture is tantalisingly hinted at. A distress call, a crashed spaceship, cryptic messages from the ship's computer, and a medical officer with mysterious intentions.
Maybe I've jeopardized the rest of us, but it was a risk I was willing to take.
It's a pretty big risk for a science officer.
Now, ultimately, though, at its most simple, it's a slasher movie, with the masked killer replaced with a creature and a bunch of senseless teens replaced with a terrified ship's crew. Now, it's actually surprisingly gore-free, except, of course, for its infamous dinner table scene and a few very brief shots here and there. It's much more focused on building suspense and dread. Scott's camera moves slowly and carefully around the ship, the Nostromo, and whether he's showing us the gradual process of the crew waking from their sleep pods or slowly exploring vents and dark corners of the lower decks as the crew play hide-and-seek with a drool-dripping Xenomorph. The whole thing's purposefully paced so that when things do kick off, they land with a bang. There's no rousing build-up to the aliens' arrival, just a sudden interruption mid-meal.
What's wrong?
Now, I will issue a word of warning for the final act of the movie when Weaver's Ripley attempts an escape and Ridley Scott decides to turn on a strobe effect for what feels like about 15 to 20 minutes. And if your eyes aren't spinning in your head by the end, then I'm envious of you. So yeah, I haven't mentioned the cast here, but I'm sure I don't need to as they're all excellent. Weaver as Ripley is steadfast and sure of her convictions and brings her true A-game here in the finale as things threaten to literally fall apart.
Ship will automatically destruct in T-minus 5 minutes.
John Hurt is suitably rough and grizzled and looks like he's been working in space for years. Yaphet Koto and Harry Dean Stanton here. This cast, by the way, it's amazing. They're both the blue-collar workers more interested in overtime bonuses than the fact that they've encountered alien life.
It's not my contract to do this kind of duty. And what about the money? If you want to give me some money to do, I'd be happy to.
Veronica Cartwright, bless her, basically plays an emotional wreck throughout, which is probably accurate considering the crew's circumstances.
We'll proceed with Dallas's plan.
What? And end up like the others? No, you're out of your mind.
You got a better idea?
Yes. I say that we abandon the ship.
And Tom Skerritt is the captain, Dallas, and rounding off the crew is Ian Holm as Ash, the chief medical officer, and of course, Balaji Badeo, probably butchering that name, the almost 7-foot-tall Nigerian who was inside the alien suit. Now, although I can't praise the cast enough, we all know who the real star of the film is, and that's one Hans Rudi Giger, who was a Swiss graphic design artist whose 1976 painting Necronom 4 was the inspiration behind the initial Alien design. But H.R. Giger's work as a whole and the whole biomechanical aesthetic influenced the production design of not only this movie, but of the whole franchise. Now, Giger and Ridley Scott were a match made in design heaven due to Scott's background in art and design. Ridley Scott, incidentally, was born in South Shields, County Durham, which is about an hour away from my house, and I think he eventually moved to Stockton-on-Tees, which is about 30 minutes away from me. Anyway, one of the things I absolutely love about Alien is the design. The alien itself is, of course, one of the great bits of creature design in movie history. Its eyeless head and double-barreled mouth and its acid-for-blood defence mechanism just lend it so much menace that you genuinely feel helpless against it. The fact that it's dark in colour and its body seems to blend in with the ship's mechanical interior ensures that you're always looking for it in the corner of the frame and in the shadows. And of course, before that, we have the initial impregnation of the creature via John Hurt's unfortunate encounter with an egg and what's been subsequently christened as a facehugger, this crab, spider, scorpion hybrid thing that will wrap around your face, half strangle you to death whilst forcing a baby monster inside you. Now, the film's sequel would brilliantly expand upon this life cycle, but here it's kept pretty simple, unless you factor in the canon-challenging deleted scene, which we won't. So the genius of the film, of course, lies in its space setting. The simple fact is there's nowhere to go. In a horror movie, you might escape a house and call the police. Here, the outside of the house is just endless cold space. And of course, as the poster reminds us, in space, no one can hear you scream. Now, I personally have a similar relationship to the Alien franchise as I do to the Terminator franchise. The first one being a dark and gritty, streamlined movie that can pretty much stand alone if need be. The sequel quadruples down and goes for action epic. And then the whole thing starts to go off the rails and can't be saved despite modern attempts at revival. Now, coming only 2 years after Star Wars blew a hole in sci-fi cinema with its fun-for-all-the-family battles between good and evil, here we have a film that does its best to put you off space travel full stop. There's no romantic subplot in Alien. There's no gunfights. In fact, all the heroism in the film comes from just a sheer desperation to survive. You can read into it themes of corporate greed, the fears of pregnancy, gender politics in the workplace, all sorts. Ultimately, I think Scott introduced to Giger's art was the secret sauce that took a B-movie creature feature and a monster movie of the week plot and planted the seeds of a multi-billion-dollar sci-fi franchise. Go check it out.